Let me give you a number right at the start of this video, and I want you to really sit with it rather than let it slide past you. $40,000. That is more than the annual household income in multiple states across the United States. It is enough to cover rent, groceries, utilities, transportation, and a reasonable amount of discretionary spending in a large number of American cities. It represents a quality of life that a significant portion of the country would describe as comfortable and manageable. And it is exactly what $500,000 generates every single year, quietly, automatically, without you lifting a finger, not by doing some complicated financial maneuver, not by timing the market correctly, not by taking on the kind of risk that keeps you awake at night. Simply by having $500,000 invested in a diversified stock market portfolio that earns an average of 8% per year, which is a conservative estimate relative to what the broad market has historically delivered over long periods. $500,000 sitting in a boring index fund returns $40,000 to you annually. And then next year, if you did not spend any of it, your portfolio is now $540,000. Which generates even more the following year, and so on indefinitely. This is not a fantasy. This is arithmetic. And today we are going to talk about what this milestone actually means for your life, both the math side of it and the surprisingly important psychological side that most people never discuss. If you want to understand what the financial milestones in personal finance actually deliver, subscribe and stick with us. Let us start with the numbers, because the numbers here are genuinely remarkable once you see them clearly. The median U.S. household income is approximately $74,500 per year, which means that $500,000 in investments generates roughly 54% of what the average American household earns from working. More than half the income of a typical family, from doing nothing. Think about what that means in practice. Your portfolio is doing more than half the work of an entire household's income without requiring a single minute of your time, without a commute, without a boss, without performance reviews or email chains or any of the other things that consume working life. It is just running, silently, constantly, whether you are paying attention or not. And here is where it gets even more interesting. That $40,000 per year is not coming from a diminishing account. If you invest in a broad market index fund, the portfolio continues to grow even while it generates income. Over time, $500,000 does not stay at $500,000. It keeps going. $500,000 left alone at 8% annual growth becomes approximately $1,070,000 in 10 years, without you adding a single dollar. In 20 years, it becomes approximately $2,330,000. In 30 years, it is over $5 million. The machine does not stop running just because you started taking income from it. That is the power of what you are actually building when you invest consistently over years. Now let us talk about the journey to get to $500,000. Because the path from 0 to 500,000 is not linear, and most people do not fully understand how the acceleration works. If you have ever seen a compound interest graph, you know the curve starts relatively flat and then bends sharply upward as time goes on. The same thing happens on your personal journey to $500,000. And it is important to feel it clearly, so you do not give up during the flat part. Getting from 0 to your first $100,000 is the slowest, most discouraging stretch. We covered this in the $100,000 video. The returns are small. The progress feels invisible. Everything depends on the raw discipline of your contribution. But then between $100,000 and $500,000, the game shifts in a very specific way. Your portfolio is now generating investment returns that are large enough to be felt and measured meaningfully. At $100,000, 8% is $8,000 per year. At $200,000, it is $16,000. At $300,000, $24,000. At $400,000, $32,000. Every single year, the amount your money earns for you without any action from you grows by $8,000. By the time you approach 500,000, you are earning nearly as much from investment returns as many people contribute from their paychecks. The two streams are approaching parity, and once they cross, the compounding is running so powerfully that time genuinely becomes your primary asset. This acceleration is why the journey from $500,000 to $1 million is typically much faster than the journey from 0 to 500,000, even though the dollar distance is identical. At $500,000, you have $40,000 per year being added by returns alone, before a single additional contribution from your paycheck. The hill is not getting smaller. The engine just gets dramatically more powerful. Now let us talk about what actually changes in your life when you hit 500,000, because this is the part that is hardest to describe and most important to understand. The math is clear, but the psychological transformation is what most people do not anticipate. Financial anxiety decreases in a way that feels qualitatively different from just having more money in an account. Before $500,000, most people have a baseline level of financial stress that exists quietly in the background. The worry about what happens if they lose their job. The mental calculation that runs when an unexpected expense arrives. The slightly uncomfortable awareness that one significant crisis could genuinely destabilize everything. At $500,000, that background hum starts to quiet in a way that lower amounts did not quite achieve. Not because nothing bad could happen, but because you have crossed into territory where a bad year, an unexpected expense, or even a period of unemployment genuinely would not destroy your financial position. Your portfolio can weather a 30% market crash and recover. Your career does not have to be your only line of defense against financial disaster. Decision-making changes too. When you are not in financial survival mode, you think differently. You can turn down the job offer that pays more but would make you miserable because you are not dependent on maximizing every dollar of income. You can take the lower-paying role that comes with work you actually care about. You can negotiate from a position of security rather than desperation. You can say no to things that do not align with your values without it feeling reckless. None of these are small things. These are the kinds of choices that define the quality of your actual life. And financial security at the level of $500,000 meaningfully expands the range of choices available to you. Here is something that almost nobody talks about when they imagine this milestone. $500,000 does not automatically mean you stop working or retire early or live some dramatically different life on the surface. For most people, the external changes are subtle. They still have jobs, they still go through daily routines. But internally, their relationship with those jobs, with time, with money, with stress, is profoundly different. The urgency disappears. The desperation disappears. And in its place comes a kind of calm confidence that is genuinely hard to manufacture without the financial foundation underneath it. How do you get to $500,000? The same way you get to every milestone in wealth building. Consistent contributions, low-cost index funds, minimal lifestyle inflation, time, and patience. The specific variables that move the timeline most significantly are how much you invest each month and how early you started. Someone contributing $2,000 per month from age 25 reaches $500,000 by around age 41. Someone who starts at 35 making the same contributions does not reach it until their early to mid-50s. The decade of starting age is worth an enormous amount. But no matter where you are starting from, the $500,000 milestone is not reserved for the lucky or the unusually talented. It is accessible to anyone who earns a decent income, invests consistently, and gives it enough time. And on the other side of that, milestone $40,000 of annual income appears automatically every year for the rest of your life. That is not a small thing. That changes everything.